Alright, so this video is on chapter 12.1. It's a very basic and informal video, so I don't really give you notes because I don't think you really need notes, but just make sure that you do have your calculator handy and that you try to work through some of the stuff that's here. It's just on basic matrix operations. It is Algebra 1, and so therefore they're not going to get you into some of the difficult stuff, but you do have to at least understand some of the main things. Matrices are just two-dimensional sets of elements. The following is a 3 by 2 matrix. What we do to name a matrix is we use the number of rows followed by the number of columns. Rows represent the elements that go in a sideways direction, and if you count, there are 3 sections going sideways, which is why the 3 is there, because there are 3 rows. Columns represent the numbers going in a vertical direction, and if you count the columns or the number of vertical sets of numbers, there's 2. So again, that's why it's called a 3 by 2 matrix. You will be asked in some of your questions on your homework how many elements are in this matrix, and there are 6 elements because you have a 5, a 2, a 0, a 3, and a 0. So again, there are 6 elements in the matrix. It is a 3 by 2 matrix because there's 3 rows, 2 columns. Again, that's just something you want to be aware of. It isn't usually a question you're going to see, but it is good for you to know. We will be asked to perform 3 basic operations with matrices, that is addition, subtraction, and scalar multiplication. There is multiplication of matrices that you'll probably learn in Algebra 2, but again, that's a high level or a higher level of information, so they're not going to ask you for that. But again, these are basic enough to do as long as you, again, pay attention, practice, and work on things the way you're supposed to. So addition is pretty simple. Just add corresponding elements and place the results in the corresponding spots. Now, of course, corresponding means in the same location. So looking at this problem here that I got from the book, it is colored in a way that we need. You have a 2 by 2 matrix on the left with -5, 2.7, 7, and -3, adding to another 2 by 2 matrix, which is -3, -3.9, -4, and 2. Notice that the -5 and the 3 are both red. They are both also in the upper left portion of the matrix, just like 2.7 and -3.9 are in the upper right, 7 and -4 in the lower left, -3 and 2 are in the lower right. Those are your corresponding elements, and all you have to do is take those elements and combine them. Now again, you have to be careful to make sure you do it right, but -5 and -3 would make -8. 2.7 plus -3.9 would make -1.2. 7 plus -4 would make 3. And -3 plus 2 would make -1. And again, when I say corresponding elements, when I added -5 and -3 to make -8, since those were in the upper left portion, you want to make sure your answer goes in the upper left portion. Again, it's simple enough. It's just something that you need to practice and make sure you, again, just try to actually take advantage of, because, again, it's not that hard to do. The rule you have to understand is that you cannot add matrices with different dimensions, and that is because there is no way to match corresponding elements if there's an element in one matrix that doesn't have something to correspond with in the second matrix. So upper left has to have an upper left. Second row, third column, whatever, has to have something to match with, and so therefore it has to be 2 matrices of the same dimensions, otherwise you cannot add them. A simple suggestion for subtraction, and again, I guess it is 2 suggestions, but it's just you pick one. Either rewrite it as an addition problem or switch every sign in the subtractive matrix. If you bring up your paper to me, I can show you what I mean by that, because it is easier to switch every sign instead of rewriting it, but again, it does take a little bit of discipline. So if you're looking at this problem here, the main mistake you're going to make is that people are going to think, what is 2 minus -1? What is 11 minus 8? What is -4 minus -6.5? And if you're good with numbers, you can get that right. But I'm going to tell you that even when I was in school, I had issues with that, which is why what I did was I rewrote it in a way that made it look better. So the first matrix has nothing outside of it that says switch it, so I rewrote it as it is. I turned it into a plus because I'm taking the negative and distributing it to the inside of that matrix, and then you take the second matrix and flip everything around. From there, again, you add all your columns. 2 plus 1 makes your 3. 11 plus -8 also makes 3. -4 plus 6.5 makes positive 2.5. 3.2 plus -4 makes -0.8. 1.5 plus 0 is 1.5. -5 plus 3 makes -2. You might want to verify that for yourself, because some of you have a tendency to not really get those numbers right, and again, you just want to minimize that error. But again, that's pretty much all it is. The main thing a subtraction problem is a 2-step addition problem in my mind. A subtraction problem just means let's turn it into addition problem, which would be your first step, and then let's add the information so that it gets done like it needs to be done. Scalar multiplication is simple enough to understand. If you look at this problem here, 3 times 4x plus 5y plus 10, most of us understand that this would be 12x plus 15y plus 30. That is because we understand that with the 3 being on the outside of the parentheses, it means that you take it times everything inside the parentheses. Now, what about if you saw this problem here? Even if you had never seen this before, you should have the idea to say, you know what, there's a 3 on the outside, there's a bunch of numbers grouped up on the inside. Pretty much all it is just like the distributive property. You take 3 and you distribute it times everything in there. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times negative 1.5 is negative 4.5. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. That's it. All right? But here's the thing. As you've had me all year, you understand the most important step to success in math and anything else you do in your life is minimizing mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to accept your mistakes, but you need to learn to minimize them, because every time you make a mistake, you take the effort that you're doing and you just kind of burn it and you waste it. So again, minimizing mistakes means you can probably assume at this point, because you've had me long enough and because you've had enough math, you can figure out what you're probably going to mess up on here. For the most part, you got to understand that most people are going to miss it because there are negatives. You see the negative 3. You also see the negative 2. You also have decimals. You also have, 3 by 3 matrices and all this stuff. But the biggest mistake people are going to make is that they're going to try to do it by saving space, and that doesn't work. They're also going to try to do it by saving time, which does not work. The main thing I'm trying to help you with in your math is your work ethic. And if you are learning your work ethic, I don't care if you pass my class or not. If you perfect your work ethic, if you perfect the ability to get things done the right way the first time, no matter how long it takes, no matter how much time it might take, then you'll be successful no matter what class you take, because again, you are not wasting your energy. But the main thing you want to do here is make sure you distribute. Now pay attention to what I'm showing you here, because again, I'm not going to worry about you writing it. Just make sure you agree, check your calculator numbers, or check your just use your kind of mental math to kind of say, yes, that makes sense. But I'm taking negative 3 times everything on the inside. Now here's the hard part. The mistake that people are going to make is that I'm putting a plus sign, but you have to understand that this 2 has a negative in front. And this negative in front of the 2 can only be addressed one time. What some of you are going to do is you would multiply everything on the inside by a negative 2 and then bring a minus down. Well, if you do a negative 2, the negative is gone. Others of you are going to multiply by a 2, which means you did not address the negative, and then you're going to bring down a plus. So again, you have to remember that if you are going to do it right, you should multiply by the negative 2, which therefore gets rid of that negative and then brings down a plus. But this is what you end up with, and in the end, you take those elements, you add them together, corresponding element to corresponding element, and you end up with this answer here. Again, this does take time, and it does take patience, and it does take, again, work ethic. That is what I've been trying to teach you more than anything else, which is why I've been so tough on you, because again, once you learn work ethic, you will not have issues learning anything else for the rest of your life, the rest of your math career. I understand some of you are in a bad spot after the first test, but here are your options for surviving the year. First off, and make sure you read these and pay attention, because some of you need to do this. Deadline for all makeup work is May 17th. Remember that you can still make up tests from the third quarter, because even though you don't really listen to the advice I give you, I did tell you that tests can be made up for the whole semester. The reason I allow you to remake tests is because I can't ethically, in my brain, give you an F for failing, let's say, substitution elimination, when before the end of the semester you actually learned substitution and elimination. So if you got a 10% on that test in chapter 6, but you've gotten better at it, or you are a fighter who's going to actually go back and try to figure it out and learn it and go get tutoring after school from the teacher next door, and you figure it out and you retake that test and you now know 60% of the information, I don't think it would be fair for me to leave that 10% in there. So again, you can make up tests, not your quizzes, but you can make up any tests from your third quarter. So I would say, especially if you failed the third quarter and you're failing right now, you need to make sure you go back and you look at those tests and see which ones you can fix, and don't waste your time when you fix it. Again, that is part of what I'm trying to teach you. Make sure you actually do it right, and then that way when you fix it, it actually gets fixed. You are past the most difficult portion of the book. So my idea is, if you fight like it actually matters, then you're more than likely going to work your way back. And again, I know I say this, I know you tell me you fight, but you have to understand that I am a fighter myself, which means that when you tell a fighter that you are fighting, and I can look and see that you're not coming in out early. I can look and see that you're not coming in late. I can look and see that you're not emailing me. I can look and see that you're not, trying to find ways to get extra help after school. I can look and see that you're not doing everything you can do in class to ask me questions. I can look and see that you're not going home and working on the Math XL on your own, by yourself. I can look and see you're not watching the videos 6, 7 times if necessary just to see what's going on. That is a fighter. And so when you tell me this, because the end of the year is coming, and some of you are going to be in a position where you're going to possibly fail, and the first thing you're going to say is that you tried your best. You have to understand that I am a fighter, which means that I will know that it is not truly your best. So I don't believe what you say. I believe what I see. And some of you have not even come close to tapping into your potential. Therefore, when you do pop up with that F, don't think that I can tap into my sympathy, because I don't think you really work the way you're supposed to work. So if you want me to feel sorry for you, if you want me to give you a break, give me everything you got and you will make it. But again, you have to look at those things, make your plan. If you need help to do that plan, make sure you talk to me so I can try to help you figure out what your best options are. Other than that, go to Math XL, start trying this stuff out, and we are now into a easier chapter, so hopefully you take advantage of it. Good luck.